Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Torrance, and welcome to Magic is Real, a podcast focused on proof of afterlife, whose mission is to bring hope and inspiration to others and to spread the word that death is only an illusion. If these interviews resonate with you and you want to hear more like them, you can support the podcast by liking, subscribing, and sharing with like-minded friends. Thank you so much, and thank you for being a part of the Magic is Real family. I wish you peace, light, and love always. Hello, Magic is Real listeners. I'm Shannon Torrance, and today I am here with the lovely Susan Allen. Who is Susan Allen, you ask? Susan is an evidential medium and an animal communicator and a lovely person. I'm so happy to have her here today. She is an in-demand medium, and I really appreciate her being here. So I just wanted to welcome you, Susan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so glad we were able to do this. It's
Me
lovely to be
too.
here.
It's wonderful. I became familiar with you, I think actually through Instagram, which is how I've met a lot of my medium friends.
Oh,
And but I know you've been doing this for a very long time. And I wanted to start by having you tell us all the things that you do professionally. What is your life's mission? What is your passion? And then we'll go back to who is Susan? Where does she come from? What brings her to this place today?
that's very broad. So you
Yes.
might have to, I'll go off on a tangent. So you might have to bring me back or
Okay.
zone in on a specific area of interest. How does
Yeah, there's
that
so many, I know.
sound? Well, I was this very odd child, and I was the little girl that, you know, took in all the strays, and I really understood animals in a way that, I couldn't quite understand why I understood animals or that I was fearless around animals. I have pictures of me at 5 years old in the middle of the winter, like in the Poconos with my parents, and all the bucks and deers are flying out of the woods in desolate, freezing cold weather to come to me. And I was like this kid among all this deer and these big bucks, and my dad was a little concerned, but I was always so brave, and I have so much anxiety. And I'm also the girl that like jumped in 40 feet of water in the ocean when I saw a dolphin to be with the dolphins. So I don't know, something kind of takes over with me. It's funny, I was interviewed by a woman from Africa that was helping with the poaching crisis many, many years ago. And she looked at me and she said, please promise me you're not going to walk up to a wild elephant in Africa and try to have a communication with them. And I thought, okay, so this woman thinks I'm nuts. She doesn't really get that I have a brain. I am very airy fairy and woo woo. And I go to a place with my work that is so beneficial for the person that works with me. And when I get the emails, that I said something or did something that was right or spot on for somebody, that's what keeps me going, because there's so many other professions you can do.
Yes.
And I've had all of them. I literally had all of them trying to find myself in this world, because I always was uncomfortable in my skin. I was always uncomfortable in an office situation. I couldn't stand commuting on buses, trains, and planes, to get to work. I was a model with Ford, and I had to fly my first gig in LA. When I first moved here, I had to fly from LAX to San Francisco, which is normally a 1 hour flight. And I had so much anxiety. And I said to the therapist, I said to my therapist, how am I going to do this? And she said, just tell the flight attendant that you have anxiety attacks and you just want to sit on the aisle. And I said to the flight attendant, I have an anxiety attack, when it was really spirit. And she said to me, sit down before I make you leave the plane. And I just was being honest, hang on, take care of me. But I absolutely would pick up on so much spirit energy in the plane, because everybody's in a heightened state at this point because they're flying or they have all this brain activity. And I didn't know how to self soothe or calm myself. And it was during one of those special times, I'm fast forwarding as an adult, that I remember a friend of mine said, you better start meditating and just calm down. And I couldn't. But what I could do is I wasn't sleeping. So I would just roll out of bed, drink some lemon water, and go into a deep meditation. And it was only then that I really started doing talking to animals. And people think it's so bizarre. And it would seem bizarre even to me and to my husband when it first started. I was I was always working on a horse every week. I was doing my own brand of healing and massage and a form of therapy. And he was like telepathically, I wasn't talking out loud, I wasn't hearing voices. He would just say, put your hands here and let me show you how to do this. And I would see the areas that I put my hands on that were really hot would turn really cold. And I would know he felt better. And I was doing this for like 18 months when I could no longer ride horses. A friend of mine said, just come up to the ranch and love on Leo. So he was like my first real communication. I really wasn't paying attention to it. I was always clairaudient, but I was such a nervous wreck that I didn't put two and two together. I
Right.
mean, my older brother said that I was talking to people at 2 and he'd walk in the room to take me out of my crib. And he'd say, Susie, who are you talking to? And I'd go, the beautiful lady, you know?
And do you
So,
remember
mhm.
that? Yeah. Or do you remember even as a child, older, when you had memories of sensing spirit, seeing spirit? I don't know if you actually saw them with your eyes or if you saw them in your mind's eye.
I had a lot of trauma in my life, so I don't have any. I'm writing my book now. It'll be out May
Okay.
2020, and it's like I'm trying to soften the amount of trauma that I've been through. But
Yeah.
let's put it this way, one of my first traumatic experiences at age 5 is the opening chapter of a very famous book by Dr. Levine on trauma that
Yeah.
literally leveled the woman that he worked with. This one experience, this same exact experience. And I'm like, oh, and I lived through that. And so I guess I'm supposed to be here. But it was many, many traumatic things that would have happened very, very early on in my life. And I have very little memory. My brother, who witnessed me as a little girl and pretty much raised me, he was 11, I was 1. He would recently told me that he'd come in and he'd see me and I'd be lit up and having a full-blown conversation. I have no memory of
Yeah.
this. I do have a clairaudient memory. Um, in my 20s, my mother was deceased 6 months, and my then husband, he was my boyfriend, who then became my husband back then in New York. I heard my mother scream, get to the emergency room. I was taking Tylenol and going back to sleep, and I literally heard her scream, get to the emergency room. And I went outside. It was the middle of winter, and I said to my ex-husband, you got to drop me off at the emergency room. Hurry up, I'm going to edit. He was a producer, and he was going to edit, and he literally, it was like a flyby, dropped me off at the emergency room. They took me in, they intubated me, they performed emergency surgery on me, and they gave me the last rites. And here I am. So
Wow.
that, and she was deceased 6 months. So that was really it. I'm born in an Italian family in New York. It's all about work. So I just kept trying to find myself through one career to another, and none of it really stuck. I would get really bored and leave. This is kind of like a profession that, keeps giving back. It's like as I help somebody else, I heal another level of myself. And the
Yeah.
evidence is pretty profound when people email me. I don't remember the readings.
Mhm.
I feel energy shift. People like wonder my process. My process is I'm with you. I go into meditation and I'm able to give you a reading. The other side of it is I feel like love is key to this work. So I pour out a ton of love, and if I feel a connection to friends, I knew this girl 20 years. She came to my house, and we were just sitting on my couch and talking, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of love. And I said, "Your mom's here." And she went, "Huh? What?" And I go, "She loved cards." And I thought my girlfriend was going to fall off her couch. I never knew anything about her mom. She hid it. Her mom was big gambler,
Mm.
slept with a deck of cards on her night table.
Wow.
And so my girlfriend was like, "What?" And then I started to give her information. I just remember the deck of cards because I just recently read her testimonial that she wrote. Um, but that's kind of how this works for me. And everybody, like what I would say is every medium gets their information differently.
Yes.
And for me, like some of the most, I feel like I'm a medium's medium. I've had some famous mediums contact me for readings. And one reading, I'm not going to say who, but she's pretty famous. And I didn't know who she was. I don't look people up. It would be no fun.
Yeah. I
Why?
know.
I mean, I like the challenge of this.
So do I. I always tell people, do not tell me anything
I
about
don't
you.
want to know
I don't
anything.
even want to know your last name if possible. Just
And what would this be?
no.
It's just like going to work and then making photocopies in
Yeah.
office. Like I don't want to know anything. And this girl's reading was pretty profound, and I was like, wow, I've never had a reading like that. What is it you do? Because I saw her traveling and leaving her body, and she said I'm a psychic medium, and I went, oh.
Interesting.
And then I looked her up because I was like, I want a reading with her, and it was like crazy price, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so and I remember reading once this girl, her band member. I'm all over the map, so you're just gonna, if you want to talk about certain things, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
wind me
Keep
back
going
in.
because I have
This is
questions, but
how my brain works, and I just go with it.
mine does too.
Girl that I talked to, she called me, and she said she didn't tell me who she was. Like I didn't know who she was. I don't care who she was. And I started to say, this man is here and he's playing drums, and he said you traveled on a bus for work. I was not getting that they were in a band. So
Right.
my logical mind was thinking, oh, they're poor, they have money, they're
Yeah.
on a bus, but I'm not there. I'm not going there. I'm just giving all the information. And and she said, well, what about somebody in my band? And I said, no, I'm in real time with the dead person at this point. And I said, he's a total something. And she said, that's exactly what he would say in the exact way, in the exact curse word. And I just get tickled. And then towards the end of the reading, she said, well, I want to direct. That's what I really want to do. I want to direct. And I said, yeah, he said that you're going to direct and you're going to be really famous. And she said, well, I kind of am already famous. And then she had another reading with me, and I said to my husband, do you know who this woman is? And he's like, yeah, she won 5 Grammy Awards. We went to see her at the Hollywood Bowl. And I'm like, oh. So I said, how did you find me? She's like, she laughed and she goes, Instagram. So,
Yeah.
I get the biggest kick out of this. And this whole thing originated from a horse and spirit. And I go with it. I just go with it. All of this started with a horse. I have books and books and books of journal composition, notebooks full of readings because I had no confidence in myself when this started, 14, 15 years ago. And I started with the horse, and then I knew something was happening, and I took this silly little class, and everybody in the class started calling me for readings, and one was a veterinarian. That's kind of how this all started.
Right.
I really, I've had training. I've trained with, done like the week with Mavis Patilla in Seattle, which was wonderful. I did Andy Bing, I did James Van Praagh, I did here and there, but this is like my own way. Like this
Yeah.
is really my way. I teach my way of how to do this, and I've had amazing results with mentorship. It's like I tell people, if not now, when, jump out there, because I was so frightened. I would literally, Shannon, I would sit for 20 minutes and meditate. And then I would open a picture of a pet, look at their eyes, send love, get info. I would journal for another 30 minutes. And then I'd be on the phone for another hour with the person. And the one thing that I would say to myself, never ever do this for the money.
Right.
Never. I didn't need it. I I wasn't sure if I wanted it yet, but I loved it. It was
Yeah.
such a passion. And then what happened was is my hands started to hurt from all the journaling for the readings. And I said to Spirit, I don't know what you're gonna do. Or you gotta figure something out. You gotta like help me with this. And then I started to just intuit and come through my brain and my heart and verbally put it out. So I didn't have to journal anymore. Then when I was doing a reading for a woman, this is kind of how it all started. I love to say this. Um, that I was doing a reading, an animal reading, years and years ago for a woman, and she was the girlfriend of a musician, and and all of a sudden the picture across the room started to change, and it was the picture of me and my dad, because I told Spirit, I already have anxiety. If you're gonna freak me out, not don't walk through my house dead. I do see Spirit. I see their height. I sense them. I see more of an image here than I see standing in my room.
That's what I wanted to ask you, is how you personally perceive them. Do you
Yeah.
see shadows or vibrations in the air with your
Mm-hmm.
retinas, or do you
Yeah.
sense? Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't, but
I
it's,
do, and they don't scare me anymore. They
yeah,
would, but they don't anymore. That's
right.
the good thing. So when this started and dead people started to come in, because I thought, okay, like if this is going to be a business, like how do I leave my job to do this? And I was having the conversation in my head to Spirit, like, okay, I'll do this, but how am I going to do this? And then I said, but if you walk through my house dead, it's going to be, I'm done. Like I'm out.
Yeah. I
Like,
always tell them, please don't show. Actually do want to see you with my naked eye just once, just so that I continually reinforce that, yes, you are definitely seeing this, but not when it's nighttime, not when I'm alone in bed. Please don't show up as a dark figure hovering over my bed, because I'm more scared that it's a person that broke in than if you just said,
oh,
oh, hi, it's
interesting.
spirit. It's just that fear. No one wants to wake up to that.
I have, I think my clairaudience is amazing, like
Yeah.
for me, because I remember I was like it was like 3 years ago, I was trying to write. It was 4 years ago, I was trying to write, and I kept connecting to Wayne Dyer, who I had met, and we had a conversation 3 months before he passed at his writing course in Maui, and I still wasn't finishing my book. And I kept trying to connect with him, and I'm like, Wayne, are you there? I have his picture on my desk, and he would wake me up at 4 a.m. And I didn't know this about him because I haven't read every single one of his books, but he'd get up at 4 a.m. and write. And
Right.
he was a workaholic. Like, that's not me. I'm not, nobody will ever accuse, I do too much, but I'm definitely not a workaholic.
Yeah.
And he would get me up at 4 o'clock, and I would hear his voice exactly in the way that he would say it. Hello. And his Wayne funny voice.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I can't get up because I was taking care of my sick animal at the time. And I'm like, you can't wake me up at 4 o'clock. I'm not sleeping as it is. So that's kind of like my clairaudience with my mother at 26. My clairaudience is incredibly strong. My smell, my taste, and feeling, like they will stop my breath. They'll give me chest pains. Um, they'll show me that they're walking with a stick, or they couldn't walk, or they're well again. I mean, I recently talked to a client that calls me, and she had had the baby and she was nursing her baby, and I'm just sitting there and I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden the baby starts giving me info, and I'm like, what? Like it changes and morphs as I do this. And I'm telling her what her son is saying to her about the house and how she has to do this and that, and how he loves her, and how he loves certain food. And it was like, what, you know?
I know people will want to know, when you clairaudience, for anyone who's not aware, is your hearing, and that doesn't mean necessarily that you hear disembodied voices, although some people do hear it outside of themselves as a real clear voice. My clairaudience has gotten really strong, but it's in my own, it's a thought. It's more, I just hear it as a word
Yeah,
or a name.
yeah.
And I would like to know, I have so many questions, but one of them is, for instance, when you first had communication. I know you had communication as a child. Then how do you personally, Susan, know when it's coming, a voice coming from spirit? How do you perceive it? Do you hear voices outside of your own head? And when it is in your head, in your your mind's ear, how do you know it's spirit? Because, and I will ask this too, because I do have a curiosity about the animal communication, in the sense that I I'm like you. People call me Snow White because I have squirrels eating out of my lap, and a bird flew into the daycare where I work, and everyone's screaming, and I just went and picked it up in my hands, and everyone's like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, you just
Yeah.
pick them, you just go connect with them spiritually, and then they come to you, and you just let them go. But
Have a good animal story if you want to hear it.
I do. In fact, I'm going to let
But
you
keep
start.
me on point because I'm here for
Yeah.
you.
No, I'm
And
going to keep you on point, but in fact, you can start with that, because mediumship, there's so much validation, right? Like if I say, okay, I know that you have, your mother's in spirit, and I see like a tall hospital, and I see this. When it's an animal, in the beginning, before you've been doing it long enough, how did you know that you were receiving communication from that horse, for example? And how did you know enough to be able to, how did you validate it in a way that made you confident enough to be able to then go to people and say, I'm
great
confident?
question.
Yeah,
Because
it's just,
the girl that had zero, no confidence, I would literally, like I said, I would write it down. I'd meditate for 20 minutes, get clear, 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 because I always have too many thoughts in my head, which is mediumship and it's
yep.
spirit. And you have to discern what's yours and what's somebody else's, because I'm empathic.
Yeah, me
But
too.
it's twofold. Um, the first part, let me just try to remember what I was saying, is the first part of this, because now spirit's coming in. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first part of this, the answer to the question is, I can feel my energy change because I am so empathic that I walked next to a guy at Costco, in a crowd at Costco in Marina Del Rey once, and I knew he had murdered somebody. I just
Wow.
passed me and I knew he had murdered somebody. I don't know. It's a knowing. Like I know if somebody's going to get pregnant. I mean, this is all up for interpretation, but I mean, I was validated by a friend of a medium. He heard the recording. She had 8 miscarriages. I said, I don't care. I see you holding a baby wrapped in a rose-colored blanket. And she gave birth after 8 miscarriages to Emily Rose. And Emily Rose, she used the
Yeah.
name Rose. So I'm not trying to be right. And I don't care who thinks I'm crazy. It's just,
Yeah.
like you, I give the information
You just know it.
and yeah. And it's
Yeah.
so nice that you're a medium that interviews mediums because I love mediumship and I always thought that this would be a fun thing to do, to interview other mediums because I am so inquisitive. I kind of like stay on my own. Like when I first started, like I had no confidence and I'd go up to mediums. I'd go, do you want to do a blah, 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 blah with me? And they'd go, yeah, uh, you know. And now I work alone and now all the mediums come to me and go, do you want to work with me? And I'm like, I'm okay alone now. Like really, I
Yeah.
think I'm good alone. I like other mediums so much, but for some reason I feel like spirit pushed me out on the limb to work alone. So in answer to the question, my energy does change. And the answer to how do I know I'm validated, I would
With
journal.
animals.
Yeah, okay, so I would journal all my writings. And then I would read them to the person and I would add on because now I'm connected. As I'm telling this person, oh, she said that you did this and you did that. And so the first experience with Leo, the horse, he was a major dressage horse. He was about 15. He still was doing shows. He was being leased. This woman was leasing him high level dressage riders, paying thousands and thousands a month to ride these horses. And she was very sweet. And I said, he said that he really wants to retire. And I wrote down everything about her and their experience together. And she runs to her car. This is like 14 years ago. Pulls out a wad of cash. I still remember it. I didn't ask her for money. And she stuck it in my hand, and it was $150. And I was like, she goes, you have to keep doing this. And it's kind of like when I read my husband's tarot cards like 17 years ago, and I'd read for my girlfriends. I don't even know tarot cards. I just flip them.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's like, don't read me anymore. You're freaking me out. And my girlfriend was like, you need to get paid for this. And I'm like, I wasn't looking for this. This is not the profession I saw for myself. I really did not see this. And yet, I have to tell you, when I help other people, it's going to make me cry because I just got an email from a client. I mentor her. And that's going to go up because I'm so proud of what she's done in like 6 sessions with me. You know, she has a career, she feels differently about herself, she looks differently. I will not work with people one-on-one unless they meditate, unless they do the meditation, because I can't get through all, like, it's an Italian word or it's a Jewish word, whatever it is. It's like this one word I keep thinking is mishigas. It's like you can't get through somebody's crap and help them unless they're meditating. This
Yep.
is through the private mentorship. I don't need somebody to be meditated in a reading. I just open with a guiding prayer and meditation, and then I just go right in. And I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. I know it's always very healing. It's always pure love. And sometimes stuff gets said. I mean, I remember reading for a woman that was screaming because her dad came in. She was screaming at me. And I was like, okay. And I sat, and I don't want to hear from him. And she was 80 years old. She had been carrying this around her whole life. 80 years old, super successful woman, still working, 80. And in Beverly Hills. And she was screaming. And I was like, okay, and I just sat there. And they would not give me any more info. And I go, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know until I'm in the reading what's going to be going down.
Yeah.
And I said, they're not giving me any info. I think that he wants you to hear him out. And it was all about forgiving him. And he had a lot of mental health issues. Like, we talk about trauma, but this is somebody that did some terrible, terrible things to her and her mother. He basically lit the house on fire when they were asleep to try to kill them. Like, really.
Yeah.
We've heard as mediums some really crazy stuff. And also, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. I can remember at a very, very, very young age to be overwhelmed by other people's problems. It's like people would just walk up to me and start telling me all of their problems. And I would be so overwhelmed. My dad started that at 8. My dad would tell me all his problems.
I'm just going to say that I was a Lyft driver.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
like taxi cab confessions every time I drove. So I know, I just want to say, yes, I've heard everyone's life and I enjoy it. Heard everybody's life story.
If I don't start taking it on. That's why, like,
Yeah.
it's like, I can't, like, I love, love, love the girl that helps me, my assistant. She's like family to me because I don't know where I would be without her because I don't want to keep my schedule. I mean, and sometimes if she tells me something about her, I'm like, you can't tell me right now. Let me call you when I'm meditated and I'm not working and we'll discuss because I care about her.
Yeah.
And sometimes the care becomes a little too much. So it is, for me, I can only do what I do.
Same. In fact, my friend yesterday said, he goes, you should be paid to be a therapist because you're like mine. I said, I'd be the worst therapist. I get so emotionally involved. I would want to fix it. I wouldn't be able to sit on my hands and be impartial. I take it on as I don't take it on as my own anymore, as I've learned to set boundaries, but I understand where you're coming from with that. And that's part of being an empath and a sensitive. And actually, I just wanted to go back to something you said, because I think my listeners will be like, wait, what about that?
Okay.
You had said that you had a good animal story.
Oh, I have a
what
good
that was. Yeah.
It's like 4 years ago. This is a really good one. So I was working out at a gym when you were going to gyms all the time.
Oh, yes.
I was in the garage of the gym. It was on the west side. You said you're from LA. So it was Wilshire Boulevard in Bundy, the busiest intersection. And this girl, it was dark, and this girl's at the top of the, the drive out where the
Hmm.
garage is, and her boyfriend's in the car screaming at her, and she's trying to get this baby possum. It wasn't a baby, it was just small, and she's trying to like shoo him down the garage, and she's screaming, I just don't want to make it hit my car. And I looked at her and I said, keep bringing him down, keep shooing him, and then leave, and I'll take care of the rest. Like this knowing,
Yeah.
I don't handle animals.
Yeah.
I'm an animal communicator, but I don't like train animals or. And my husband had an earthquake bag in my trunk for me. He's very like good like that,
Yeah.
which I'm not good like that. So I emptied out this earthquake bag, and the reason why it's an earthquake bag in my trunk, it's this big duffel bag. The zipper doesn't work. So the possum came down, and I got him the rest of the way in front of my car, and I just said to him, get in the bag and I'm going to help you.
Amazing.
I know. And he jumped in my bag. And then I
Wow.
said, now I was new to a different area in LA, so I'm working out still on the west side with my trainer and my best friend, and I live in the valley. So now I have a 23-mile drive with a possum in a
Yes.
bag in my front seat,
That's so me.
and there's no zipper. So now I'm thinking, this probably wasn't, nah, I'm going to be okay. I stayed all the way in the right-hand lane, the slow lane. And I just said to the possum, do not come out of that bag because you will freak me out and you're going to freak yourself out. And he stayed in the bag, and I got him home, and we put him in a box, and I gave him, he was dehydrated, and
Yeah.
he had a can of cat food and water. And the next day I brought him to Calabasas Wildlife Rescue. And I walk in, and the woman at the desk, I said, look, I just really need to know that this possum is going to be okay. I just want to know, oh, we don't generally call you. We just take them
Yeah.
in.
Because they're not pets, but
Yeah.
yes.
And so somehow that woman got my number, and she said, I just want you to know I'm a certified wildlife rehabber. I have 50 possums. They live in horse stalls. I mean, she sent me pictures. She was so awesome. She said, I took him. He's completely blind.
Oh,
I wanted you to know that I have him and you could visit him anytime. And we named him Sweetheart because he was such a sweetheart.
I love
And
possums so
I,
much.
I kid you not, he looked so beautiful. She sent me a picture of him on her shoulder, and he looked filled out and happy, and he had a girlfriend, and the rest of his life was just, and I'm still friends with this woman, and she has an epic amount of pets. And she's just one of those great humans.
Yeah. That's
So that was my
awesome.
cool animal story. I mean, there's
I love that.
hundreds. I have Galapagos tortoises that were 200 pounds that I couldn't fit in my trunk. He was escaped, and it was hotter than hell on my street. And for that day, like miraculously, DWP workers were on the street, and I had them lift this tortoise and put it in my trunk to drive down the street. He ate 6 heads of lettuce, and we found his owner. I mean, animal.
Yeah.
Only like it happens to animal people.
I know in LA, I had a few squirrels and I had a possum, and they all came. It was like when I'd come out, they'd come and the squirrels would eat out of my lap. One of them passed away. I think I realized after the fact that she had a cleft palate and that's why she wasn't thriving. And just when I found her, my neighbor's screaming, I'm like, I've got her, I've got her. I picked her up, put her in the cat cage. She died in my car, and I was holding her paw. But I carried a rat home that had been hit by a car because I couldn't stand to leave it out in the sun. Brought it home to give it a dignified death, did Reiki on it, prayed for it. But I have that same thing where people are like, don't pick up a rat. I'm like, I didn't pick it up with my hands. It was right on Hyperion near the Gelsons. And I went in the dumpster, got a box, scooped up the rat, and I had walked there. So I walked the half-mile home with the rat in a box, and I just don't have fear. I'm just like, taking care of this animal is my priority. So I really appreciate that. And I'm always out there. Like I went to hiking at the Hollywood sign recently, and there's a deer that's been domesticated because people are feeding it, came up, licked my hand. It's my dream.
That's
Now,
my thing.
it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to have a farm at some
Yeah.
point. And what I wanted to ask you that I know people will be interested in is how can we all communicate with our pets better and try to understand, even if you're not an official animal communicator, how can we practice tuning into what our pets are thinking and needing from us?
That's a really good question. I do a class. I mean, I know you want the Reader's Digest version, but I
Yeah,
literally teach what I have done and what
great.
I know. And I want to do a class in January. That's going to be the
Yeah,
only thing I do in January is another animal class.
perfect.
And I do 5 giveaways quarterly for
Oh,
people that
good.
can afford readings. I do either animal or people readings.
Yeah,
So the best thing is to sign up at my website
yeah,
because then I send out the newsletter when the giveaway time is or when I'm doing an animal class. But with any kind of communication, it's meditation and trust, as you know.
yeah.
It's most people don't try, like the people that I work with one on one, and I'm going to open this up to a bigger group. They don't, I have to, I give them so much love and trust that I force them to jump off a cliff. And that's really the only way to do this.
Yeah.
It's really the only way because if you play it safe, you're not going to grow.
Yep.
And animal communication, like giving readings, it is an art form because I really do think people are closer to their pets than most people, than to
Hmm.
the dead people in their life in many ways. And losing a pet, the grief is extreme,
Yeah.
extreme. So I do a lot of, end of life readings after they've crossed over readings for closure and grief. And I really do feel like, I've had people work with me one on one, and I have to tell them, no, you can't just like, you have to. It's like reading with grief is kind of like painting a picture,
Hmm.
and it's like you just don't. It's kind of like if you're really communicating with spirit, it kind of feels like a song.
Hmm.
That's how I feel. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be, I mean, I shouldn't say if you're really communicating, because I really don't like when people say, like, there's mediums out there that go, you can't communicate with dead people until they're past a year. And I read for an older
I
lady.
don't find that to be true.
It's not. I read for an older lady, and the first thing her husband said was, what took you so long? And I know another medium that wrote in his book that in real time, as the guy died and his wife was in the medium's office, the guy came in and talked to the wife. So I just feel like once you're out of the body, its spirit is flying all over the
Yeah.
place, you
I do
know?
too. I think all things can be, well, I know all things can be happening at the same time. They can
Oh,
be having their life review. They can also be in the quote unquote room with you, in the space with you. They can also be dropping you a signal. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not there, but I talk to a lot of people who have been there. Granted, they haven't stayed there. So who knows if there's more after that, but I think once your spirit, you remember who you are. For I'm sure, and I know there's some people that are like, wait, am I dead? That, but it's not that. I don't think they get stuck. That's just my personal belief. I could be wrong, but I feel like they're not stuck. They're exactly where they're meant to be. And I heard
right.
someone say, God doesn't make mistakes.
Mm-mm.
We don't need to fix them. There are a lot of people and some of my friends who work with spirit, and their belief is they need my help. I don't believe it. I appreciate what they do, and what they're doing is well intended and good, but I also don't think that God makes mistakes like that.
No. I also really feel like if you're really open and you're not like pigeonholed into doing one thing, spirit will work with you and do many different aspects because as I grow my business, I'm learning what people want and need, and I'm saying yes to so many things that I would have blocked. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing miracles happen. Like, serious, like for me to watch somebody grow at the rate that they're growing, um,
Do you
it's
mean
just,
in mediumship
yeah,
specifically?
with
Yeah.
mediumship. I've been training like privates, like girls, they're
Yeah.
young women. Um, but I've been doing some privates with women, and it's just like I can't believe I force them. I'm like, you're gonna read me, and you're gonna read me right now, and there's no judgment. I want you
Yep.
to take huge risks, and they're like getting my dad's name right and his birthday, and I'm like, we're all fucking
We
mediums.
are. It's
We're
the
all
only,
mediums.
we're all mediums.
And
We,
you know when you're woo woo, you just know it, but you won't trust it and
yes.
you won't allow yourself. And I'm not saying quit your day job. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
I didn't for 10 years. I mean, I
Yeah.
really embraced this fully as a full on because I was just getting really, really busy.
Yeah.
I don't like people. This one girl said, well, there's so many people that have come my way, but somebody was like, she's a medium and she's with animals. And this was like 8 years ago. And she was like, do I quit my job? And I'm like, why? Do both.
Mm-hmm.
Till your
Till
business,
you can't anymore, till it takes up so much of your space.
yeah, I don't really want to do a lot of that other side of my brain work, but
Yeah.
I like to do it to get me out of this sometimes.
Yep. That makes sense. And is there any, I'm sure you have, I know you said you don't remember a lot of your readings, and I'm sure you've had so many at this point. It's funny because I'm not as developed as you are, or I'm not as natural a medium. I say that just because
Yeah,
that's
I
my,
don't know why you say that.
yeah, I know it's probably not
Label
true.
yourself. Don't allow you
Yeah.
to label yourself.
Or I'll say that I wasn't aware.
I understand, but I read, like, I keep, my favorite book is Louise Hay, How to Heal Your Life.
Yeah.
I will always read that book over and over because it's like the simpleton's book of healing.
Yeah.
And sometimes if
Yep.
I have a rough day, I just open that up to any page. But I remember reading her first lecture in front of a podium, in front of a massive amount of people. She got up there and she said in the book, I refused to belittle myself. She said, I got off that podium and I said, Louise, you did such beautiful work. You're just going to be better and better and better at this. And you're just going to grow and grow and grow. And it is only through love of oneself, which is the hardest love, because as women, especially, we're all giving it out, we're healing animals, we're taking care of families, we're taking care of husbands, we're taking care of kids, we're trying to grow our business, we're trying to be leaders in the world. It's so much freaking pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is the self-love is the beginning of it. And Wayne Dyer promoted every single book that he ever wrote, but I am doing an ebook. It's going to be a 28-day book that we work together on, and it's going to be for ultra, ultra beginners. Like, I really want to take the traumatized person. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not a therapist, but the
Yep.
person that has anxiety, that can't figure out if they really want to do this work, and I really want to take that person and I want to bring them through a 28-day book. And it's everything that I
That's a
did.
great idea.
And I want to do like a Facebook group. We're getting ready to finish it. I'm
It's
just
like the artist's way for mediums.
yes, and it's very
That's
simple,
perfect.
and it's just 28 days, and I'm gonna put some meditations in there. I do like listening to my own voice, but I feel like a lot of people like my voice.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful voice too, and I feel like I'll throw that in for people until they could get in touch with their own quiet voice inside.
That's brilliant. And like, because I was going to say that when I say I'm not a natural medium, I actually am, but I'm not natural in the sense that I realized it was happening until just a few years, like a couple years ago. But so I do remember my readings. I remember it all. And I get so excited. I'm like, and then this happened. And then this happened. Cause to me, it's still so exciting to have those validation bombs.
There's a
But
woman present behind you, and I feel like it's a mother or a grandmother, and
it's
she's very
grandmother.
similar to you, that you almost look like her.
Yeah.
And she's like guiding your way. She keeps telling me she's guiding your way. And I'm also getting a T initial. Is there Teresa, a Terry, or Tammy? And it
Um,
could be anybody. It could be a
yeah.
male too, but I just got a T.
I'll write it
And they're also telling me you're moving again. So where you are, even though you're really happy and you just moved there, you will move again. I
down.
don't know why. But
I
they're
think that's
telling me
true.
that, and they're saying, just go with it. It's going to be better and better.
That's funny because, and I'll tell you why that resonates with me, is that I
What's
just
the
yesterday,
question that have you been asking yourself?
yeah, I literally yesterday just
Okay.
prayed because I said, I just moved here. I love this city and I'm not done
Yeah.
exploring it and I'm with my parents, but the people, it's not the people, it's just the whole culture that,
Yeah.
coming from LA, I'm so used to a different kind of a vibe. And I was saying, I'm feeling spirit too so much. And I was saying, I love it here, but I'm feeling like my people aren't, I've met some good people, but I'm not feeling the gel with the culture and the people. And I said, I know I'm going to have to end up moving somewhere else.
And she's with the man. I'm sorry to
Oh, that's
interrupt.
okay. That's
She's
okay.
with the man, and I feel like it would be her husband or her brother.
It would probably be grandma and grandpa together. So
Okay.
we're very close.
Because he just came in and he's standing here on, and she's here. And I feel like, was she very, because I feel like she liked to talk. I feel like she almost could, like, I feel like she could have been an actor almost. Like there's something
Funny.
about her that I really like that's very, very likable. And I could have somebody else with you
And
next
it
year.
could be, I mean, it could be my grandma was, it's funny because she was so shy, but she also was fun to talk with. She didn't
Yeah,
realize that about herself. I would assume it might be, and I'm still thinking of the name I'm still trying to think of that connection, but
you can remember later.
of course I will. But
There's also a horse energy behind you, so I don't know if you ever owned a horse or around horses, but there's a horse energy coming in.
I rode horses when I was young though. No, I wasn't connected with any particular one,
That's okay.
but I'll take
Bring
that and
something
check that
in.
as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it
And
is interesting.
who painted? Did your grandfather paint a lot? I'm seeing like rollers, so this could be another move where you're going to be painting a room.
Um, I don't know.
Okay.
All thinking about it because I want to,
And what
yeah.
city are you in? Is it
I'm in Richmond. I'm
Richmond?
in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that is an uptight community. Woo.
Yeah, it's just small. It's so beautiful. I love a small town. I
What
run in
do you like Alexandria?
I've never really spent a lot of time there.
Keep feeling Alexandria for you.
Hmm.
Well, you'll have to let me know.
I will let you know, and I'll definitely let everyone know too. Thank you for that because I did ask just yesterday. I said, I know you'll show me the path.
Yeah,
I right now I'm very happy here, but I know it's not forever.
it's
It's
not.
yeah, it's
I
just
feel
not
like I don't even want to tell you. I feel like the number six, it's either six, I think it's more like 6 more months.
okay.
But I feel like an opportunity is going to present itself outside of where you are, and you're going to end up going.
I keep saying I'm kind of going to wait for love or an opportunity to
It
take
is
me
love,
out.
it's a man.
Yeah, I kept saying I have a feeling I'll move because of love.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'm going to meet my
Oh, you're
person out.
so lovey. I
Yeah.
was like a magnet for that. So
I
I see
know I
good
am.
things.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susan. I really appreciate
Oh
that.
yeah, that's
Um,
okay. You're welcome.
yeah, it's amazing. I know, and I know people will also want to know because this is one of the questions that they ask. When I've learned from doing readings myself, for me personally, when I say I have your grandmother there, I don't see, you know, somebody or what they look like behind you. I just suddenly know. I just know.
It's
I
in your
just
brain, yeah.
I'll just be like, I have a male figure that's about, I just immediately go in and just know. And when you were talking about trust, I would say that is I'm actually getting it tattooed on my wrist right here because in the beginning of my mediumship journey, it was like, yeah, like you said, you throw your students in and I'm going, I don't know. What do you mean read someone? I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, it would be,
Well, I mean that's like a couple of weeks in, but
yeah.
we gear up for that.
Well, and I took a class that geared up for it, and that was what finally clicked it. It was Monica the medium, but she did the same thing. Let's first spend the first few weeks meditating, getting in touch with nature, journaling before we even start doing the work, because you have to prep yourself. Let's let go of all of your crap. Fortunately, I did 12 steps, so I felt like I had years of letting go of crap, and I'm in a really good place now. And I feel like everyone should do the 12 steps just to do them. I actually was thinking
Yeah,
of
a lot of
like,
people feel they should be taught in grammar school as opposed to like classes because so many people have so many codependency issues.
Yep.
And, you know, that's usually an empath or a medium, to be honest with you.
It is. And that's what my thing. I was a big emotional dependent. And so it's really interesting that what I'm learning now as my readings have gotten stronger and stronger is I've learned this, but my teacher's telling it to me and me just doing it is a totally different experience where
Yeah,
it's
because it's
not,
yours, it's your own.
yeah, it's the trust is the thing. And when you throw someone to the wolves, one of my friends is a medium and he said, I play the makeup game with people to test their mediumship skills. And he said, I just say, make up a story. I'm going to give you a name and I'm just make up a story. And he did it with me in the beginning of my journey. And I got, I was like, he said, what color is her hair? What did she do? How did she pass? What was her? And I got it all right.
Yeah.
And it was because I wasn't stopping to think,
Yes.
feeling into it. I went, she's a heroin addict. I see pills in her bag. I see menthol cigarettes. He said, does she have a boyfriend? I said, Jason. He's like, yes, that was his name. And I described what he looked like. So it's about not thinking and feeling and trusting yourself, but trusting
Absolutely.
spirit, but
Yeah.
also trusting yourself to receive spirit.
Yes. Yes. 1000%.
And it's miraculous what happens. And I also wanted to just ask you, um, I guess in terms of your own, at what point did you sort of take everything that you were feeling and experiencing privately? And I know that your friend said you should start charging for this, but was there one moment where you said, you know, I'm really going to start taking this seriously and here's what I want to do with it? Was there, and it doesn't even have to be a moment, just sort of was there a period of time?
I always like depended upon the opinions of strangers, which I don't really do anymore.
Yeah.
I depend on myself,
Yep.
and I teach that too. But I had a healer who I still love and go to, and she's a chiropractor, and her practice is closed. It's here in Altadena, and I had been seeing her for like 10 years, and you know, I would go to her every couple months. And one day I walked in and I said, something's happening. I think I'm a healer.
I was just going to ask you about this.
And I was like, what? Like, I associated healers with, you know, let's face it, you know, we don't, healers are, I don't know, I just identified healers not in the same category as um, and I think it's because of the way that I was raised, the way my mother did throw me to the wolves. I don't love that expression. You said you were being thrown to the wolves as far as mediumship. I think that you were thrown into love. I don't think you were thrown into wolves.
Yes.
Because I was thrown to the wolves by a mother that, you know, had me dating guys I that were not age appropriate. Like she just wanted me to have this fabulous life, and I did. I grew up in New York. I had a fabulous life. You know, I went amazing places, but I was really like, she really turned me out and like left me, and I really didn't have skills at all. But going back to, because you're that comment, because my brother and I would say we would have been better off being raised by a pack of wolves
Mm-hmm.
because I was thrown to the wolves at a
Yeah.
very, very young age. I had to figure my life out, and I didn't have a skill set.
Right.
I didn't have skills. But when I do my mediumship, I feel like it's the only thing that really works is the healing and the love.
Yeah.
And if you come from that place of pure love and healing, miraculous things happen. And there are really good mediums out there that don't necessarily come from that place, but that's okay. They're still doing good work. I really don't have a lot of judgment around it. But I went to this healer, my friend, Dr. Aileen, and I said, I think I'm a healer. And she said, yeah, you're a healer. And I didn't know I was going to start talking to dead people. That's 90% of my business, not
Yeah.
animals. I was just doing pure animal work. And I said, and she looked at me and she goes, it's animals. You can heal animals. And I was like, And I said, I'm doing readings for people. I mean, I had somebody bring me to Santa Anita racetrack. He was a trainer. I talked to his horse that wasn't winning. And and she placed. And she wasn't all drugged up. I liked the guy actually. But um I realized that something was changing in me and happening. And the way that it really started was I couldn't even bear to see an animal like running alongside the freeway. I would come home and be in bed for a week. I would just be so hypersensitive with animals that I couldn't bear to see suffering.
Oh yeah.
Um, my friend Chris got a puppy, you know, he and his wife, and they have the puppy on the counter of their store. And I'm like, it's not, there's no gate. Like, what if it falls? Like, I don't want, it's like, I can't. I have to guard myself. You know, I'm thinking this. I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
That's the new me. But I say, Chris, you know, you can't have a little fuzzball white dog on your beach walks with the hawks. You can't. You have to leash it. It's like this big. So I say that. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, the hawks. Yeah, you're right. Oh my God. Nothing ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. And what was it? What, oh, I was going to ask about the healing thing. Did you,
Yes, thank
that was
you.
a knowing that you had. It's okay. That's a knowing that you
I
had.
was not, I was not, I was like, oh, like it wasn't because I didn't trust myself. So it was like something's happening, like I'm doing healings, I'm doing readings with the animals, and I start telling her, and she finishes my sentence.
Right.
And then she said, because I wasn't charging,
Yeah.
and she said, is I kid you not, I was only doing it a few months, but my text wouldn't stop. I was doing it for testimonials. That's how I started my
Yeah.
business. And she said, if you don't start charging, you're going to lose your gift. And she was not an expensive person. She was very reputable, and she would even have donation days for people that couldn't afford to see her as a chiropractor. And I'm like, if she's telling me to charge, I better start charging. And that's kind of how the business developed and started.
And yeah, I was thinking that I've been dealing with the same thing where I just realized I'm doing readings more than I'm doing my own job as a voice actor sometimes. And I'm like, I know I need, and the podcast, which I love. But I was saying to a friend, I said, I'm working 75% of my day is devoted to the podcast and my own and taking, and people are starting to say, can I get a reading? Can I get a reading? And I'm like, I'm gonna have to start charging for this. And it always feels uncomfortable, but it isn't, because it's an energy exchange and it's a gratitude exchange. And
Yes.
we all need it to thrive and be abundant. And it comes back to you when you give. And so it's all good. But I understand that place of going, wow, I actually am doing this. Like I'm doing readings like 3 times a week, for some for donations and then some
Yeah.
from,
That's kind of how I started, and I would never quit my day job. Actually, I was so weirded out that my clients in my regular business would think I was whacked out and wouldn't hire me because I was
right.
doing real estate in Southern California.
Yep.
And I didn't use my name, I used my maiden name for my animal communication. So they
Yeah.
had a separate website, separate name, and I did that for years. I was so hidden, and my husband finally said, "You're really busy, and you're not like in love with real estate. I mean, I love real estate, but I'm not in love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the work it involves. Um, but he said, just come out, and I felt like I was coming out of the closet as a
I
new.
know.
I
I
know.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
putting this out there, I was like, half my friend people on Facebook are going to be like, okay, that's interesting. But so far,
I don't think that what you do. I mean, it feels like I was an actor. I kind of sucked at it. You know, I did the New York City off Broadway thing. I did tons of plays. I have such ADD that I would be in the middle of my script, and all of a sudden I would start thinking my method acting, and before I knew it, I would skip several pages in the script. That's why I say, bring me back home to
yeah.
what you really want to hear, because I will totally follow you.
Yeah. Oh, and on that note, I actually want you to share when we talk about healing, because it's a very general thing to say. personally, I've been certified in Reiki. I haven't practiced it except on friends. It's just something
Yeah.
I did because I heard that it can really open up your mediumship. And what kind of healing do you do? Not it, even if it's not a specific modality,
Yeah.
but how did you figure out your healing process, and what does that really mean to you when you offer healings? What types of things do you heal, and how in general? I mean, in general terms, or however you want to put that.
Um, well, my I was already doing healings on the horse,
Hmm.
and I feel energy
Yeah.
leaving my hands.
Yep.
And when I would do healings on animals, I'm very like visual, so I would imagine them in my lap. I'd get a picture and I would 3D them in my lap, and I would just have the energy. Like I have energy leaving my hands right now.
Yeah.
So I would just feel them on my lap and send energy into them. And then I would usually know where their problems existed. And later, many years later, I met this amazing female at a shop in Santa Monica. I went in to buy crystals and I talked to the manager of the shop, and they wanted me to come and do animal readings there. Once every couple of months, I would do a whole day, like 12 readings. And the people would literally bring, I mean, it's mind-boggling. Bunnies, cats in strollers, and I'm like, you don't have to bring your animal. Like they just thought that I needed to have
Yeah.
the animal there to have an animal communication session, and talking to animals is just like talking to people, only it's so much easier.
Hmm.
There's not all of the stuff that you have to get through with a person. It's very interesting. It's like same energy as an infant or a
Yeah.
light spirit or a young soul, or it's very, very similar. And it was years later, I met this fabulous healer named Nicole Pijolt, and she works with me in spirit. She did crossover, I think it's 3 years ago, September. But she was a Reiki master. And she said, I want you to come and do my class. I'm not charging you. I'm going to give you your Reiki master.
Oh,
And I
amazing.
swear to you, I don't have those things memorized, but it
I
was
know.
so interesting. I loved it, and anything to be around her. I mean,
Yeah.
she's so fabulous. This girl was a living saint, like an angel, like really the highest vibe person, just an amazing human. And she passed, and she works with me all the time in spirit. She's
Hmm.
become like a really cool resource for me. And so she certified with me my Reiki years after I was already doing animal healing and communication for 8 years. It's always nice to get that paper or that degree if it makes you feel better. If that's what completes you, like I have an amazing friend that's a great psychic, and she's a healer, and she doesn't stop educating herself. And it's like, I couldn't do that amount of education.
Right.
I mean, it would be too much. It would take away from, and it's always somebody else's point of view. I think at some point you have to rely on yourself and
Right.
trust yourself,
Yeah.
and none of us do. I mean, I had no
Yeah.
confidence. I had no confidence. So,
Yeah. I think that's really interesting because after I got certified, I was like, okay, but no one really showed me what I'm supposed to do. I just understand the concept, but what now? And
because you were a healer in another life, and we come in this way, like, and now is the time for healers and people that do what we do to really like spread this message as quickly as possible, that we can rely on ourselves. We just have to
mhm.
get through our own, like you said, it took you what it took you to arrive at this place, and now you're clear because you work through a lot of your own stuff.
Yeah. And I think what I learned from just doing Reiki on a couple of people, I had a friend that I did it for, and she came out of it sobbing and was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And all its intention. And same with mediumship, I think a lot of it. I mean, it's not the only thing, it's intention and trust. It's now I know that, oh, I don't have to do much for mediumship. I just have to ask spirit to show up. I have to
And
ask
go
that they
and be in your heart,
and be,
like,
yeah, and be of the highest and best good for everyone involved, and the light
right.
and all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I just have to ask them to support me and to support the spirit the sitter, and just have it be a helpful, healing, loving experience. And then they show up. It's just asking. And that's what Monica said to me, Monica Tenkate, who's Monica the medium. It kind of clicked when she just said, if you ask spirit to be there, they'll be there. That's
Yeah.
how that's how easy it is. And
Yeah.
then it's the trust. And then it's the trust that what you're getting is actually coming from you. And that does, I would say, at least for me, for someone who maybe wasn't doing this since birth, it's also then learning how to distinguish what's your own thought versus spirit. And I still don't get it right all the time. But I'm
I don't
now,
think anybody does. I don't think anybody's
no,
like 100%.
Mavis says that even.
Yeah, it's really an art form,
Yeah.
and everybody will paint the picture differently. Anybody that thinks that this is an exact science, and there's so many mediums out there, and there's a medium for every soul.
Yeah.
And people will have their favorite mediums. That's just how it is. And you're there for however, if it's 1 hour, one time in this person's life and you make the change for them, that's all that you're meant to do for them. The soul
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. And I
It
think that's
really knows, and it's about trusting yourself too.
that's really helpful, because I'm sure there
Trust, trust, trust.
I love that. I love that as sort of a parting message, because I know a lot of people want to say, well, how can I be in touch with my loved ones? Or how can I not, even if you don't want to be a medium, everyone who's open to this
Yeah.
and interested probably, I was one of those people that was like, I wish I could do that, not realizing I could. And I think, like you said, it's,
I went to 55 mediumship readings over 10 years.
wow.
Nobody, my husband didn't say anything. And I really felt like my whole essence was changing when I was doing the same medium. And he never once brought my mother in. But yet it was so healing on so many different levels.
Yeah.
He didn't get names, but everything that he said spoke to my own soul and my own healing. And I was already a medium, and I
Mhm.
didn't know it. But the interesting thing, I read very much like him, and I'm happy I do, because I feel like he helped heal my life in so many ways.
I think that's such a great point, because I've said that too, that why I love this work so much is that you get to have this very intimate relationship with another human being who's usually a stranger.
Yeah.
And I don't have to have I don't have to have gone to medic, I don't have to have a PhD. I don't have to go to
Yeah.
school to be an MFT. I unofficially I'm just there to hold space for them and let them share their let them share their loved ones with me, and we share memories
Yeah.
together, and we're both sitting in this very sacred space together, but where I also, obviously with respecting boundaries, am able to sort of let them talk to me about difficult things that they've experienced or what they're going through, and I get to sort of be a therapist in a sense without having to have a degree to do it. But
Yeah, well, it's an intuitive knowing,
yeah.
people come to mediums for help with grief,
Yeah.
and we provide that service.
Yeah.
It was so funny, like when I was doing mostly animals, and I didn't really talk to dead people yet. This girl came to me, and it was a critical health issue with a dog or a cat. I don't remember. And I remember saying to her, who referred you? And she said, my vet. And I said, who's your vet? And she gave me the name, and I go, I don't know the vet. And she goes, yeah, she never came to you. She just said you were amazing. That's kind of how I knew I
Yeah.
might have been doing something to help
Yeah.
people. Um, and I hope that I continue to grow and learn and never stop. And I wish the same for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, Susan, and for sharing your beautiful energy and your time and your insight. I'm going to put a link below to your website, but is there any other place where people should look to sign up for your classes, or anything you'd like to share?
I would say my newsletter is the best way to know what's going on with me. And I have a Facebook page, public page, and I go on there and I do readings.
Oh, wonderful.
I do some readings for people on there, and I also have at Susan Ellen Medium is my IG page. So those at Facebook and IG is where I'm most active, and my newsletter is the best way to know what's going on with me. Thank you so much.
Great. My pleasure. And I will again have the link below that you can click on to go to Susan's website. And I really look forward to seeing what else you do and to reading your book when it comes out. No
Likewise.
pressure.
No, it'll be done. I'm working on it. It's gonna be done.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you.